Good evening, GB, and to each of the commissioners for taking on this role, and welcome in Manhattan. It's the largest turnout of all 5 boroughs. Let me be clear. Thank you. Manhattan rocks. And I want to thank the Speaker and the Public Advocate for working with us on a Charter Revision Commission. And you are all here, and I appreciate that. There's so much to talk about. With my short time, I will present an overview of items that I would like to see this commission to consider, and we will have full testimony in the near future. And I do hope, and I think you will, put all testimonies on the web. Real estate, as you know, plays the most crucial role in the physical shape of our city. And so I want to start with my suggestion for changing land use procedures, some of which were derived from the excellent work done by the Inclusive City Working Group, which I worked on with Councilmember Reynoso. So number 1, pre-planning must be built into ULURP. Input from community boards and elected officials must be considered before a project is certified. Number 2, borough presidents should be allowed to submit amended applications with their ULURP recommendations when a city agency or local development corporation is the applicant or co-applicant, which would put important potential zoning changes in scope for the City Council. During the Inwood rezoning, for instance, everyone but the Department of City Planning wanted storefront size limits, something I worked on the Upper West Side. If I could have submitted an alternative application during ULURP, these storefront size limits could have been adopted by the council. Number 3, there needs to be a citywide comprehensive plan every 10 years. This planning process could distribute new development equitably across the city. Additionally, the zoning resolution itself could be reviewed every 10 years. And then you could have include youth group reform and other issues that people want. Number 4, for changes to special permits, such as the 2 Bridges project, which we're dealing with now, there must be a new ULURP for modifications that differ from what was presented during the initial ULURP. Also, the City Council must be solely authorized to determine whether a modification to a proposal is within the scope of the original application and the environmental review. And number 5, on the issue of land use, super tall buildings are everywhere. Without getting into my own feelings about these, I think you know them, I recommend that at a minimum we make requests for zoning lot mergers, for easement agreements, and development rights publicly accessible through an online map portal so we know what's going on. I want to talk about some other things quickly. Landmarks Preservation Commission. I appreciate the presence on the LPC of architects and planners, but we need preservationists, and we need to have stipends for the commissioners. Another issue is the robust issue that was brought up earlier of spending priorities. The council does not currently have access to the units of appropriation, and you heard some discussion earlier about that. By providing details of what the council is being asked to approve, including a reconciliation of year-over-year changes, and by prohibiting an agency from categorizing all its spending in one unit, as you heard earlier, the council could really know what the basic form of governance actually is and where the taxpayers' money is going. Also, requiring service level information and performance measures. The budget should match the performance for each unit of appropriation in the budget would add transparency. Finally, with regard to budget, the charter should require that the mayor provide final revenue estimates earlier than is currently mandated. Then the charter would further empower the city's body to make better informed decisions. Just a few more things.
Okay.
Our ability to govern is also determined by the independence of our oversight bodies. For instance, the Office of Corporation Counsel provides legal guidance not only for the mayor, but to city government as a whole, like the borough president and the city council. The position of Corporation Counsel, we feel, should be advice and consent by the city council. The Civilian Complaint Review Board needs some changes in order to fulfill its role in ensuring the public has effective recourse when there are complaints about police conduct, and we will have some very specific suggestions for that. I am a believer in the local form of governance, community boards. Without going into all the specifics of the previous commission, that was appointed by the mayor, I want to point out that I do not think that we should have term limits for community boards. That is our first line of defense in neighborhood planning. Finally, in the 1989 charter revision, when the Board of Estimate was abolished, a funding formula for borough presidents to disperse capital funding to the community was established based on the land area and population of each borough. It's a very important role. And my office has funded parks and schools and so on, and lots of infrastructure. But according to a recent NYU study, Manhattan's population doubles every day as an additional 2 million commuters come into the island and taxing on infrastructure. This daily population spike is not reflected in the funding formula for borough presidents, and it should be. We have 60 million tourists and lots of commuters, not in the budget in terms of the priorities. Thank you for the opportunity to testify tonight. I will submit my written, much longer testimony shortly. Thank you for all being here, and I'm really excited about this Charter Revision Commission. Thank you.
Thank you, Gale. We're really excited that you took the time to come here, particularly when I know you have an important hearing across the street on Rikers Island and the decentralization of that facility. We'd like to get you over there as soon as possible, so are there any questions from members of the commission? Allison Hirsch.
Hi, Borough President. Thank you for being here. I just have 2 questions, and I know you're need to get out.
I'm fine. It's a mess over there. There's 200 people who can't get in, so it's much nicer to
Well,
be here.
then I'll talk slowly, so
Please.
you don't have to go across the street. I just had a question. If you could, I have 2 questions. One is on the alternative application during the ULURP process. Yep. Can you explain how that would work? Would both applications go through the council simultaneously? Would the one be adopted within the other? What would the practicalities of that look like?
Well, it's a good question. In other words, the concept is, and the Inwood is an example, I can be a little bit more specific. The city council, which I was on for 12 years, right now makes the final decisions, as you know, and they should. But the issue is, if you have some good ideas as borough presidents, and some borough presidents have good ideas, community boards have good ideas, and this issue of retail is a big concern in Manhattan in particular, loss of mom and pops. And so what happened in Inwood, to be honest with you, is that we suggested that the size of the retails be a certain size all across Inwood in the rezoning. The City Planning Commission at the City Council level refused to even include that in their proposal. So therefore, the mayor's office said, no, we won't do it. And understandably, because I've been in the city council, the clock ticks and you have to get through and vote. If in fact, as the borough president, we could have said, this is a priority, an A-text, application text as it called for us, you wouldn't take the entire quote unquote recommendation that is essentially what the borough president's ULURP is, but you would take certain items and this would be part, just as the city council votes finally, it would be included as an application text in the final document.
Got it. And I have one more question, changing the subject. We've heard a lot of testimony about different ways to reform the CCRB. Yeah. And I was wondering, I know you mentioned that you think reform is a priority, if you have specific recommendations about how to do that.
I have some. I'm pretty familiar with zoning. I am less of an expert on the CCRB, to be honest with you. But I will say that I know that at several of the hearings of this commission, the topic has come up. And I think apparently the current memorandum of understanding, which of course is an MOU, that provides for the administrative prosecution unit and that set forth the New York Police Department's duty to cooperate with the board, needs to be codified and made permanent. And what that says in English, I believe, and I've just met with some of the board members of CCRB to talk about this, is that folks at the CCRB feel that sometimes what they suggest is not taken seriously at NYPD. So how do your goal is to have seriously taken your recommendations. Now, how you accomplish that is something that I hope that you will focus on.
Commissioner Fiala?
Madam Borough President.
I love
it's not-
Staten Island, but you know who I really love? Jimmy Otto.
I know.
Well, we love Steve Fiala as much as
I
we
know,
love
but I
Jimmy
really,
Otto.
really, really love Jimmy Otto.
I know. Everybody loves Jimmy Otto.
Not as much as me.
I love Jimmy Otto, too.
I know.
Thank him for the opportunity to be here.
Can we see a show of hands for everyone who loves Jimmy Otto? Thank you.
Madam Borough President, there are two areas, two very quick questions. One regarding your testimony and one concerning an area that's of particular concern to me. Regarding your testimony, you allude to moving the date in which the mayor presents the council his final budget estimates. Do you have a specific time frame in mind? How much would you push it up?
Well, I would have to get back to you on that. I will
Okay.
tell you that, again, as a member of the Finance Committee in the City Council, it was a big challenge to be able to come up with our list, and I'm sure the Speaker and his staff have the same problem now. Not only was there a time issue, but you have to figure out what the revenue projection is going to be. And so you're constantly juggling. And so, again, is this something that could be worked out? It would be preferable if it did. I don't know. I can work on an exact date. I know the overall problem is that you spend a lot of time and then you find out that the timing doesn't work for all the work that you've done.
Okay. The second area relates to service delivery. The 1989 charter spent a fair amount of time on this. Service delivery is essentially one of the most important things a municipal government does. The role of the borough president, many would argue, was eviscerated. I voted against that charter precisely for that reason, just in full disclosure. But the language in the existing charter, some would argue, in theory at least, provides borough presidents with a meaningful and substantial role in affecting service delivery outcomes in their boroughs. Is it your experience that the theory or the language that supports that statement, that borough presidents have a meaningful role in service delivery, meets the reality? Or is there something that we could look at doing to enhance the role of a borough president so that that individual, he or she, has a meaningful voice in shaping the policies relating to delivery of services in the city?
It's a great question. I would say a couple of things. First of all, working with the community boards, we obviously have borough service, and we also have a borough board every single month. And to get the borough service, which is when the agencies and the community district leaders, community board district managers come every single month, you do not find a large number of city agencies participating, and you don't see the kind of data. I passed the open data bill when I was in the city council. So I really, really believe that this data that you're looking for, because the way to do service delivery is to know the data so you know where the challenges are in your borough. So the strengthening, to answer your question, which is an excellent one, would be to shore up and do some mandates for participation in the borough service and the borough board. And secondly, to figure out, working with the community boards, either through staffing or better data presentation, and we spend hours and we train them and so on. They have monthly borough service cabinets of their own with all the agencies. That data doesn't necessarily get accumulated in any kind of a meaningful way. So it would take a staffing and correlation with the budget and the program, which we talked about earlier in terms of the units of appropriation. But as usual, Staten Island has a great idea in terms of how you would take, looking at the borough, what is the Department of Transportation doing for Staten Island? What is it doing in terms of Parks Department? And is it getting its fair share? That would be the metrics that you would be measuring against when you have enough data that's collected from the community boards and from the borough service. It is not done now.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Are there any other questions of Borough President Brewer?
Give my best to Jimmy. Thank you very much.
Thank you.